Hello, and welcome to Stephoodle. I am, hauntingly, Steph, and this is the first of 2 Halloween dolls this year. I got it into my head that I had to make a doll of Annabelle, but not how she appears in the movies. The real-life Annabelle, which is a Raggedy Ann doll. I'll also be talking about the movie which I finally watched, and my very strong opinions about haunted doll movies in general, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get to the doll. This doll is going to be a hybrid of a few different dolls. This creatable world body with curvy made-to-move Barbie feet are left over from when I made my mini-me doll. I'll be using this Ever After High Cupid head that's seen better days. While I clean up the head and get it ready for customizing, let me just give you a brief blurb from the Wikipedia article for the Annabelle doll, like the real life one, just so you have a better idea of what I'm talking about in case you aren't as familiar with the movie or even the real life story. Annabelle is an allegedly haunted Raggedy Ann doll, housed in the now closed occult museum of the paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. Annabelle was moved there after supposed hauntings in 1970. A character based on the doll is one of the antagonists that appear in the Conjuring universe. And that's pretty much all you need to know. I will say that I'm highly skeptical of the Warrens and have been for a very long time. And if you read about their personal lives and stuff like that, they're very different than the what I've seen people describe as couple goals portrayals of them in the films. So take that as you will. Raggedy Ann has red yarn hair, so that's what we'll give Annabelle. I use a long doll needle for this process. First, I thread the needle with the end of the yarn, then insert the needle into one of the holes at the hairline. I pull the needle out through the neck hole, tie a knot in the end of the yarn, and trim the excess. Then I pull the yarn from the scalp until the knot stops me from pulling it any further. Then I cut the yarn a little longer than I want the final length to be, and then I can just repeat the process like a million more times. Here's a quick check-in after I finish the hairline, and now I need to fill in the rest. And here it is all done. I use super glue to close up the cut in her scalp. Technically, I don't really need to add glue for this type of reroute, as the knots are usually enough, but I did it anyway just for a bit of extra security. Since the neck peg of the creatable world body is bigger than an Ever After High neck peg, I decided it would be best to reattach the head before the face up to avoid any damage. I masked off the hair and gave the head a couple of sprays of Mr. Super Clear UV Cut Flat, waiting 30 minutes in between each layer. I start by sketching out her features with watercolor pencils and later move on to acrylic paint. Whenever I want to save my progress or I can't build any more color, I give her another coat of MSC. This face-up is deceptively simple, but I also tried my best to be very precise, so there was a lot of back and forth and refining. So, Annabelle, the film, which I watched last night as of time of recording. I actually knew about the real Annabelle before the movie came out because I was really into hauntings and weird paranormal stuff, especially when I was younger. So when I heard that there was going to be a movie, I got kind of excited, wondering how they would do that because I knew she was a Raggedy Ann doll. But when I saw what movie Annabelle looked like, I lost all interest because she looked obviously cursed. And for me, that kind of takes away some of the horror. And that's a problem that I find with a lot of haunted or cursed doll movies, is that they just look obviously evil right off the bat. And it just, why would you bring that into your home? I used red PanPastel to add blush, which for some reason is below the smile lines on the doll. Interesting choice, but okay. We'll do the same. A lot of dolls, like, what makes them creepy is the fact that they're just old and they've aged, and like the aesthetic of them is not popular. You know, aesthetics have changed over time, and so that's how they appear creepy. But now that I finally watched the movie, credit where credit is due, at the beginning of the story, she looks just like an old doll. Like, she's still a little more exaggerated, but she reminds me a lot of Howdy Doody puppets. But it doesn't take very long for her to just look evil. And granted, part of that is just her getting dirty and like other stuff happening, but Now, let me say right now, if you liked the movie, if you love the movie, that is totally cool. I'm glad you like it. You do you. Enjoy yourself. This is all just my opinion and for me. So for me, aside from a few really great sequences, like the elevator scene in particular, I really liked. The use of repetition there. It's very good. And some fantastic edits. I found it pretty predictable. And I wasn't really scared. I think only one jump scare startled me in the whole thing. But it was kind of fun to see if I could, like, predict what was gonna happen. It was like, oh, I'm pleasantly surprised that they did it in a slightly different way than I was expecting, but it was still kind of the same thing. I also felt like they were trying to do a lot more than they actually had time for in the movie, because there was like the whole thing with the cult and the summoning and the things, but like we don't really get to learn a lot about everything. I don't know. Anyway, my verdict is that Annabelle, the movie, is okay. It's just okay. My main beef with haunted doll movies in general is, like I said earlier, that the dolls look too obviously cursed from the get. I mean, just look at all of the We Have Annabelle at Home movies you can find on streaming services now. And I get it. It would have been hard to take a haunted Raggedy Ann doll seriously. But, I think there's a lot more horror to be had in the mundane. To have an object that appears harmless turn out to be malevolent, and to have the main character come to that realization slowly over time. Like Chef's Kiss. I really like subtle, creeping dread type of horror. Like, you don't realize how scary it is or how dangerous it is until you're in too deep, and there's no way back. If any of you have any recommendations along those lines, though, please leave them in the comments. I do love a good psychological/paranormal horror movie, and I would enjoy a few more to try out over the spooky season. After the final coats of MSC, I decided to use some Black 3.0 on her pupils, just to make a void for you to stare into as the void stares back into you. On to clothing. I made this pattern for leggings, but the fabric I wanted to use wasn't long enough, so I'll just make the legs out of this stripy fabric and attach them to these white shorts I already have. I hem the bottom of the legs with hem tape. Perfect. Then I fold them over good side to good side and sew up the seam. And here they are. Now I just need to turn them right side out. I flip the shorts inside out and insert the leg into them, matching up the edges. Then I whip stitch them together. And here we have some leggings. Next up is pantaloons. The word pantaloons is so fun to say. Pantaloons. I hem the bottoms with hem tape. Then I use a ruler and a friction pen to mark a line. That will be my guide for where I want to gather the pieces. Once gathered, I can place the two halves together, good side to good side, and sew up the front seam. Next, I'll gather down the top and attach the waistband. I press the waistband up and then finish it with hem tape. Now I can sew up the back seam part way and add a snap for closure. And finally, I can sew the inseam. And our little pantaloons are done. It's dress time, baby! I'll start by hemming the neck ruffle with red thread. Then I attach the front and back bodice pieces at the shoulders. I hem the sleeves with hem tape, then gather them. I was actually surprised that the particular Raggedy Ann that Annabelle is has a floral dress and not a plain blue one. Luckily, I was able to find some floral fabric that looks pretty similar. Now for some assembly. I gather the tops of the sleeves and attach them to the bodice. Then I'll do the same with the neck ruffle. Now I can fold everything over and sew up the sleeves and the side seams. Can you guess what I hemmed the skirt with? Jokes aside, hem tape has become such a fantastic tool for me. Cannot recommend it for miniature sewing enough. If you're not using it, give it a try. It's really handy. I gather the skirt and attach it to the bodice. Then I can close it up the back seam part way and add a couple of snaps for closure. And here's the finished dress! It came out just like I wanted, I'm really happy. And now for the final clothing piece, her apron. I start by hemming the apron and the ruffle, with hand sewing this time, not hem tape, aha! Then I gather the ruffle and attach it to the top of the apron. To make the straps, I fold the side of the piece over by about 1/3 and press it. Then I add some hem tape and press the other side down for a clean finish. Now I can attach the straps and a couple of pieces of ribbon so that the apron can be tied in the back. And here it is all done! To finish the look off, I found these Barbie high tops in my stock box and painted them black. Then I sealed them in with matte Mod Podge. Her hair is a little too long and cute, so I gave her a purposefully choppy haircut. Now we have the doll, her leggings, her pantaloons, her dress, her apron, and her boots. I just have to get her dressed, and she's done. I am very pleased with how Annabelle turned out. She looks just creepy enough, but still manages to be a bit cute, at least in my eyes anyway. What do you think of my version of the real-life Annabelle? And what's your opinion on the movie? Should I watch the other two in the series? Or do you have any other horror recommendations for me? Let me know in the comments below. I tend to like more psychological and supernatural horror. I really want to go back and watch Ringu, actually. It was a special interest for me for a while, like after the American movie came out, and then I went back and watched the original Japanese one. I also went back and read the original book series by Suzuki Koji as well, made up of Ring, Spiral, Loop, and a few short stories, and each book gets weirder than the last, with Loop being absolutely bonkers. But I kind of loved it for that, and I really should read them again. Right, so future stuff here, just to interject, turns out there was an entire short story collection called Birthday. I thought that was just the name of one of the stories, and it might be, but I forgot that it was a whole collection. And then apparently, which I did not know, 2 more books were published called S and Tide that came out in 2012 and 2013 apparently. So I need to get back and read those because, yeah. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and click the bell icon and turn on all notifications so you'll know whenever I post a new video. All my socials will be listed down below. I'm most active on Instagram, and if you really like what I do and you want to buy me a coffee or help me get more supplies, you can find a link to my Ko-fi tip jar in the description down below, or you can click the super thanks button right below this video. And until next time, bye! Oof!